Alright, what's going on, guys? So today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be ranking every single wonder weapon in Cold War Zombies, and that even includes all of the variations of the base wonder weapons, like the Cerberus and also all of the D.I.E Shockwave elemental variants. A lot of Cold War has, like, you know, multifunctional wonder weapons, and many of them appear in Outbreak, so you have the opportunity to run multiple, if not basically all of these, as you're playing Cold War. But yeah, today we're going to be ranking all of these from worst to best in terms of their overall effectiveness within their own right, but we're going to take a close look at all of these Cold War Zombies wonder weapons and rank them from worst to best. So if you guys enjoyed the video, then make sure to drop a thumbs up, and of course, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, as Vanguard is literally just around the corner. And once you reach the end of the video, feel free to let me know your rankings of these wonder weapons down below. Let me know if you agree with my list or if there's some things that you would change up about it. But anyways, let's get started coming in at our worst spot. So I think the worst wonder weapon in Cold War Zombies has to be the D.I.E Shockwave Fire variant. Now, this one, like recently the D.I.Es had the ability to become Pack-a-Punch, which was a recent addition in Season 6, but even so, even after you're able to upgrade it, and even the pre-Pack-a-Punch build, this is just probably by far the least effective out of all of the D.I.E elementals, because it shoots like one singular shot that, to be fair, can take out multiple enemies at once and creates a fairly large explosion, but it doesn't do enough DPS to, like, you know, a horde of zombies. It doesn't kill very quickly, and it also has like this really strange trigger delay, so it's really not a good panic option for anything. Also, just guns in general in Cold War, especially the vanilla base game weapons, had this weird thing for like trigger delay, specifically guns like the Milano and stuff, and I don't really get why they did that. They seem to drop that off as the season went along, but it certainly came across in their wonder weapons, and there are a few other ones that do have a trigger delay in terms of the D.I.E variants, but I feel like it's most noticeable in this one. The only reason to build this variant is literally if you're doing the D Machine Easter egg, which thankfully sort of has the same problem as Origins, where you build the wonder weapons, but you don't necessarily use them a whole lot, like during the game itself, so you can pretty much put it together and then never think about it again if you really don't want to. But yeah, I would say that the D.I.E Shockwave, the Fire variant, has got to be the worst one in terms of all the overall wonder weapons on this list. Alright, so coming up just after that is the Cerberus Quintessence, or the like shotgun variant of this. Now basically, the way that the wonder weapons work in Mauer Toten, these are like, I guess, attachments, or you might call ammo mods for the original Cerberus, but they do function pretty differently, so I definitely want to rank these as well. I would say this is by far the worst variant, because it pretty much just diffuses the power of the original Cerberus and doesn't really add anything meaningful to the weapon. It just essentially spreads your shots, and I can't find one scenario in which this is more useful than if you were just to use the Cerberus originally. It's so unbelievably inaccurate. Of course, it's going to hit a lot of zombies at once, but like, you're literally just better off using the like single shot Cerberus to kill a horde of enemies than you are with something like the shotgun. Even though on paper you would think this one would be better, it's really not, and it's like probably the most underutilized wonder weapon in the entire game, but for good reason though. It just doesn't have anything unique that it brings to the table, and just makes the original version worse. Simply, that's the fact. And speaking of Cerberus variants, but coming up just above that, it's still like fairly low tier one, but a little bit better. This is the Cerberus Seeker. So this one is like way more useful than the shotgun variant, because it has an auto targeting system in which at least most of your shots are going to hit, unlike the shotgun build, and this also like has that cool mechanic of the auto tracking, and it will usually pick up on things like elite enemies, and you can kill panzers with this pretty quickly. You just hold ADS and it'll automatically find its target, which is a really like sick mechanic. But is that a significantly meaningful change in order to run this over a different variant or the original Cerberus? Absolutely not. Credit where credit's due. It's got one of the coolest aesthetics I think I've seen in a wonder weapon in a long time. It's a shame it doesn't come with that same effectiveness, but it's okay. So just after that, however, I'm going to give this next one to the D.I.E Shockwave Ice variant. Now, I've got a lot of love for this one, and it's really fun to play, but I just don't think it's as effective as it could be, or even some of the other D.I.E variants, and unfortunately, it still has that really annoying mechanic of that trigger delay. I honestly think that if they change that, where there's no trigger delay on any of these variants, they would be significantly better, or at least perceived that way. Now, the Ice variant does retain that really nice attribute that slows down the zombies in sort of a cryo freeze method that is unbelievably effective for crowd control, but I just don't think the DPS is quite there. Even on like round 27 in this gameplay, it's not killing quite as fast as you would probably expect out of a wonder weapon to do. There are some ones that do it better. It's by no means the worst wonder weapon of all time. It also doesn't have as much ammo as you would like out of it either, so you're going to be replacing it a lot, so it struggles a little bit, but it is a fun wonder weapon to use, just not amazing. Now, just after that is going to be another D.I.E variant. This one's, I would say, pretty mid-tier, like in terms of all of the wonder weapons. We're we're getting higher up on this list, and this one is significantly more effective than the ones we've previously spoke about. But this is the poison variant, and for all intents and purposes, this may as well be compared to something like the lightning bow from D.E or even the ice staff from Origins. Now, albeit not nearly as effective as either of those weapons, but it's still the same concept. You have this area of effect that completely shuts off and is really good for camping, and maybe not so much in Cold War specifically. However, there are a few strategies that really utilize all of the strengths that the poison variant has in D Machine and can be really good for like ranking up XP and just getting like a really good casual high rounds game in. Another thing I noticed is it doesn't really have much of that trigger delay that I described with the other variants. Maybe it does exist to like some degree, but it's really not noticeable at all with the poison variant in particular, and maybe because of just the way that it functions, I'm not really sure. Also, the clouds that it shoots out, unfortunately, are completely like opaque. You cannot see through them, or something like the ice staff or even the lightning bow, you could kind of see what was in that area of effect, so you knew how many zombies to deal with once that cloud or like effect went away. But in this version, you really can't see, so it's kind of like arbitrary, and it could be a little bit scary if you're just running into a cloud, you don't know what's alive. But all in all, it's a very good wonder weapon. Not the best on this list, but I would say pretty mid-tier, all things considered. Now, moving on to, I would say, a true middle of the pack wonder weapon. This is the Cerberus variant of the laser build. So this is pretty much what you might say is the D.I.E Shockwave ice variant, just probably a little bit better. It's one of the most one-note wonder weapons in the game. There's really not a whole lot to this one. It's just straight up like, I mean, it's good, but it's not like anything too crazy. I will say this one deals out consistent DPS, and you can absolutely shred through panzers and also megatons in particular when you're doing the Easter egg on Mauer Toten, and it's very useful for that. Also, it's probably the coolest looking wonder weapon variant specifically in this mode. I think one of its biggest problems is actually ammo capacity. I feel like it doesn't shoot for long enough. If it had a little bit more like in the magazine before having to reload, it could be a little bit more useful, but it's all in all good. Like, it's very middle of the pack, but it's pretty all right. So next up is the D.I.E Shockwave original variant. This is without any of the elements on it, and this is like probably the go-to for camping strategies, specifically in D Machine, but it has plenty of other uses as well, including even an outbreak. The thing is, like, it does a lot of damage, and you barely even have to aim this wonder weapon. In fact, I bet Ray Charles could get round 100 using the D.I.E Shockwave, and he's never even played zombies. Basically, pairing this with Ring of Fire makes you a literal invincible gamer. It's arguably the easiest one to obtain as well. You can get it in Outbreak, you can also get it in D Machine, and because you don't need to hunt down any of the elemental upgrades, whether in the map or just buy the box in Outbreak, it's very easy to get your hands on. It's a lot of fun too. So now moving on after that, we're getting into our really high tier of wonder weapons in terms of Cold War, and the Reiki that featured and was, first introduced in Firebase Z, but also found in Outbreak, is one of my personal favorite wonder weapons. Even though it's not particularly effective in Outbreak, it's a lot of fun to use. Now, it has two different fire modes, one being an orb that you can combine with the regular shots to explode. I feel like this is the closest version of that ray gun assault rifle that every zombie player dreamed about back in the day. One thing I really want to give Cold War credit for in terms of wonder weapon design is they have like a lot more going on to them than some wonder weapons in the past. Like the Thunder Gun is great and everything, and the Apothecon Servant, I love those wonder weapons, but you literally just push one button and everything dies, and it's like there's really nothing else to it than that. The ray gun and also like the D.I.E Shockwave, the Cerberus, they all have like different like fire modes, and you can use them in more creative ways than just pressing one button. Really do hope they continue the trend of developing wonder weapons that have multiple functions and features, because I was a really big fan of that in this game, and I feel like that could be even further expanded upon in future iterations of zombies. And I really feel like the Reiki personifies that sort of design philosophy too. Also, not to mention, the Reiki did get pretty significantly buffed in the latest update. For those of you who have not played it, it was already very effective and very strong, but it's been even more so, which is unbelievable. But yeah, the Reiki is certainly a high tier wonder weapon. Maybe not the best in the game, but definitely deserves a high spot on this list. Now, moving on after that is a somewhat unexpected one. This is the D.I.E Shockwave Electrobolt. So this one is crazy for a variety of reasons. Now, unfortunately, it does have that annoying trigger delay. That's probably the only downside to this variant, but you get a literal ludicrous amount of speed if you're firing this while sprinting. Like, it's actually insane. I think it might be faster than Ether Shroud. Also, it has an insane amount of DPS that you can output with this, and it's got a very generous amount of ammo. Kills much faster than the ice variant of this, and you do get that speed boost. Unfortunately, you don't get that slowed zombie crowd control mechanic, but but that's okay because the trade-off is like the zombies literally just die that much faster. I'd say like this one is literally just a cut above pretty much all of the other variants in its class. I really do think it's one of the most effective weapons for doing the D machine Easter egg, specifically the boss fight and holding it down and like protecting Orlov during that entire sequence. It's definitely worth making, even if you're not doing the Easter egg, but you want just like a really good run and gun sort of weapon. They all kind of cater towards different playstyles, and at least in terms of a playstyle that I enjoy, the electric variant is no doubt catered towards that more aggressive kind of player. I can't say I recommend it in Outbreak a whole lot, but if you're gonna be running one of the variants in that mode and you're not running the original Shockwave, then I would probably go with this one. But otherwise, a very high tier wonder weapon, and surprisingly very high on this list. But anyways, this wouldn't be a wonder weapon ranking without the original OG classic ray gun. Now, some of you may remember, I feel like we take the ray gun in Cold War for granted because like as zombie games went on prior to this game, the ray gun just seemed to be getting worse and worse over time. And partly that was due to just wonder weapons in general being more effective in like BO3, BO4, and even BO2 to some extent. Like it just seemed to be getting a little bit worse as the years went on and phased out just by other things that you could run in the game. And so Cold War completely backtracked on that and made the ray gun great again. And I think I would go so far as to say the ray gun might have the overall best utility out of any wonder weapon in the game. Now, it's hard to say for sure because some of the wonder weapons like the Cerberus, for example, are unavailable on Outbreak, although the ray gun, the ray K, and the D.I.E Shockwave are. But coming from somebody who probably plays Outbreak more than the average person, I think that the ray gun is certainly the best gun in the game for this particular mode, other than like a shotgun. Also, you must note that PhD and Mule Kick really helped out this weapon. The ability to reload the ray gun while you're using something else and it just stores in your back pocket. And then also PhD completely nullifying all of the self-inflicted explosive damage, and that includes splash damage from the ray gun, makes this weapon even more viable than it already was. Splash damage wasn't a huge issue in this game, to be quite honest, at least comparatively to other experiences that we've had, but it certainly still wasn't a factor and an attribute. But that being completely nullified now makes the ray gun that much better. But yeah, absolutely love it in Cold War. Funnily enough though, some of you may remember Treyarch made a patch that they reverted in like a day where they changed the ray gun's ammo pack-a-punch from 40 to 30 for literally no reason whatsoever, and everybody hated it, and they changed it back seemingly in like 8 hours, and it wouldn't affect the ray gun that much. Still would have been a phenomenal weapon, but like yeah, the ray gun is definitely one of the better weapons in Cold War and is probably the best ray gun we've seen in zombies so far. I'm just gonna say it was really hard choosing where to rank both the ray gun and the Chrysalax compared to each other, the wonder weapon from Forsaken. Now this one has two modes, of course, the SMG like firing mode, and then also the melee axe wonder weapon itself. Now I think after considering it for a long time, I feel like the Chrysalax might be just technically better because of one mechanic, and obviously the melee is unbelievably strong. Like this will kill zombies up to like rounds 40-50 with one single swipe, but also the ability to heal yourself with each melee swipe for like, I don't know, a couple of HP at a time, it just makes you a literal juggernaut while using this. And I think without that mechanic alone, then the ray gun would be better than this, all things considered. But the Chrysalax, because you're basically invincible with the melee, then it really just has to be the GOAT. I don't think anybody would argue that the ray gun itself is better than the SMG part of the Chrysalax, but the, physical axe makes this one maybe a cut above the ray gun, although I have much love for both these wonder weapons. It was really hard to rank these two, but yeah, it's not the number one on this list though. That is going to have to go to the Cerberus original. So yeah, coming in at our best wonder weapon of all in Cold War Zombies is going to be the original Cerberus from Mauer der Toten, and unfortunately only appears in this map so far, although hopefully, fingers crossed, Treyarch will hear this and add it to Outbreak. That would be great. Personally, I see the Cerberus as almost like a more streamlined, effective, and straightforward version of the ray gun. The power that you can output with the Cerberus consistently is just absolutely monstrous, and there's some strategies that really shouldn't even be possible, but if you're using this gun in particular, it will be. So while it doesn't really play into its effectiveness all that much, I just think the Cerberus looks amazing, and especially with the secondary orb floating around your screen as you're using it, it adds a really nice touch. It's not something we've seen in zombies a whole lot before. It's got a better ammo capacity than the ray gun, it reloads faster than the ray gun, and I would say is just overall quicker on its feet, and it almost seems to be like a just straight up better version of it. Again, much love for the ray gun, but I feel like the Cerberus beats it on almost every plane. It's a shame none of the variants even come close to how effective this one is, but it's so much fun to use, and I really do hope that they bring this back maybe in some capacity, either an Outbreak or even in a future game, because I think the Cerberus is low-key kind of like almost a fan favorite now, or at least it will be in a couple years time, mark my words. But when it comes down to overall practicality, I think that nothing in Cold War is able able to beat this weapon, and I would imagine most of you guys agree. The Cerberus has got to be the best wonder weapon of all time in this game. But anyways, guys, that's going to be pretty much it for the video. Let me know your thought on my list down below. Also, you can go follow me over on Twitch if you don't already. That's in the description. Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys on the next one. Vanguard's coming out soon, so hope you guys are ready for it. But hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take it easy. I'm going to go, and peace out.